Hey guys, how you doing? This is Mark here, and welcome to another jungling guide, this time featuring Pantheon. The first thing we're going to talk about today is going over runes and masteries. I like to go 80 runes with CDR blues because Pantheon has awesome AD scaling, and the CDR lets you get a lot more abilities off. The only thing I would really switch out is I would change my blue for magic resist, but that would only be if the enemy team has a lot of AP, and you can either do scaling or you can do flat. It's really up to you. For masteries, I go 2190. The focus is on making the most out of your damage from spells and allowing faster clear times as well as stronger ganks. So the first thing you're going to know as a successful jungler is knowing your jungle runes. When you're on blue side, I start by smiting Gromp, going to blue buff, smiting red buff, and then finishing either at golems or by ganking. Usually the lanes that you're going to gank are going to be top lane or mid lane, depending on who's more pushed out and which you have a greater chance at killing. When you're on purple side, you're going to want to start by smiting golems, going to red buff, and then to blue buff. And then finally you're going to end by either ganking or by killing Gromp. Typically after I'm done with my jungle route, I'll gank top lane just to provide some extra pressure. Now we're going to talk about your skill order. First you're going to start off by getting your Q, then getting your W, and then finally by getting your E. Or, if you're not going to gank, you might want to just get a second point in your Q. Your goal is to try and keep your passive up as much as possible because it's going to allow you to take a lot less damage from the jungle creeps. It's very important to make sure you don't use your W while you already have your passive stacked. Otherwise you're just going to waste an extra attack that could be blocked. Alright, now it's time for your skill order. You're going to start by making sure you get your ultimate at every rank, then maxing your Q, getting your E next, and then finally your W. This skill order provides maximum damage when ganking as well as clear speed. Now let's talk items. On your first back you want to start by getting a Trailblazer or a Stalker's Blade. Personally I'll go Stalker's Blade unless I've had a rough start because the slow is great for early ganks. The reason you're going to want to start Trailblazer is because lanes are harder to gank and you want to rush that early 6. Either way, when upgrading to Warrior's Enchant, make sure you swap to Stalker's Blade, because by that point you really won't get much out of your Trailblazers and I kind of feel like it's wasted. Once you've got your jungle item, you'll probably want to buy level 1 boots as well as grab a pink. Alright, here's where your own playstyle is going to start reflecting your build. Typically what I like to do is get a Brutalizer and then upgrade it to a straight Ghost Blade if I'm doing well. From there I'll build tanky. For a more AD heavy team, I'll go an Omen and then maybe a Thornmail if I really need it. For a more AP heavy team, I'll buy a Banshee's Veil or a Hex Drinker. Some other good options are Warmogs and Guardian's Angel, but typically I won't buy Guardian's Angel unless I have an Omen or some other health giving item. For damage item, you might want to consider Last Whisper, Bloodthirster, Hydra, or even a Black Cleaver. All of them are great to give you that extra boost of damage that you might need. Typically I get my Last Whisper because it'll save me a lot of money early on as well as being great late game. The reason I tend to focus more on being tanky is because I like being my team's initiation. If I'm building with too much damage, then I'll instantly get blown up when I do my man drop. And the longer that I can last in a team fight, the more disruption I can cause. And this will really be the key to giving my team that victory in a team fight. And now it's time to talk about what makes Pantheon a top tier pick, ganking. When you're ganking, you want to choose the lane that is most pushed. The reason being is that it'll increase the chances of you getting a kill or burning a flash. The more they have to travel, the more damage you'll be able to do on them. When ganking, your combo is going to be to spear, stun, and then use Heartseeker Strike. Then after that, use your spear again. This rotation is going to provide you the most damage possible. On a side note, if you're ganking for a laner that has CC, make sure that you guys chain it properly and that you guys don't both use them at the same time. Typically I like to wait for the laner to use their CC and then I close the gap. As I'm sure you've noticed, Man Drop is a pretty insane ability. It lets you get behind your enemy and it does a ton of damage. Once you've gotten level 6, your focus should be all about ganking. Anytime you have your ultimate up, you want to be ganking and jumping into those lanes. One last cool thing about ganking with Pantheon is being able to tower dive early on. The fact that your passive blocks a turret shot makes it excellent for tower diving. What you want to do is make sure that you take the first initial tower shot and then once you have it, you use your W again so that you can get the passive up, effectively blocking 2 tower shots and saving you a ton of health. Before we move on, I want to talk about one more thing, and that's Pantheon's ultimate. It makes him insanely powerful, and once you've gotten it down, you'll be devastating every single game you play in. The one thing that can be a little weird about it is the delay. It gives you a couple seconds before you actually drop down, and you're going to have to work on your timing. The best thing you can do is make sure that you jump behind your enemies so that they're forced to walk through your ultimate as they try to escape. Just because you don't deal damage to your target doesn't mean it's going to be a bad ultimate. If you do get a flash, make sure that you write down the timer, because in about that time, you can get about 2 ultimates off, and that could probably get you 2 kills. I'm sure now that you're a ganking pro, you're probably asking, what do you want to do next? Well, let me tell you, you're going to want to start by getting objectives. Things you can go for are towers, dragons, or even Baron. The early game is all about getting dragons and towers. What I like to do is gank bot lane, and so once I've gotten a successful gank, I'll go for either the tower or dragon. If the laners have to go back, I'll try and get the dragon if it's up, otherwise I'll make sure to go for the tower. As you get later into the game, that is when you want to start focusing on getting Baron. Sometimes to go for Baron are when you win a team fight and you've aced the enemy team. Another time is when you catch 1 or 2 members, preferably the junglers or the carries. The reason you really want to get the jungler out of the picture is that it minimizes the chances that it'll get stolen. The last thing you want to do is win a team fight just to have it stolen by the enemy jungler. With that in mind, just remember, Baron is a very strong objective, but if it gets taken or things go wrong, that can really be the turning point in the game. Finally, the last thing we're going to talk about today is team fighting, and what exactly you're going to be doing for your team. Here I'm going to give you a play-by-play about what I was thinking and what exactly I do during a fight. Here I see Fizz getting ready to pick off Rengar as he retreats. I begin by getting into position to peel for him. As I do, I notice that Caitlyn is getting too close and finish her off with a spear. In this clip, I see Jarvan coming in from the side, so that he can't get on my carries. I go in for the stun and use Heartseeker's Strike. Next, Malphite goes in, which I wasn't expecting. Since I didn't have any other cooldowns up, I made sure to use my Heartseeker's Strike in the place that I would have the most damage on. In this engagement, the fight starts with Karma getting caught. Once Karma hourglasses, I see that my team is nearby and I decide to provide Karma with some backup. I start by peeling off Blitzcrank, and then once we deleted him, setting my sights on their carry. I know that Ezreal and Karma should have no problem with Jarvan, so I focus on pushing Ahri out of the fight. Once I've dealt with Ahri, I hone in on Caitlyn, using my ultimate to pick her off as she retreats, leaving only Fizz to defend as we take the inhib and ultimately win the game. Lastly, here are some cool tips and tricks you guys can use when using your ultimate. In the first part of the channel, you can click away to stop the ultimate and put it on a 10-second cooldown. Another cool way to use your ultimate is that once you've seen that your enemy has used all their CC, you can take that time to channel your ultimate and leave your teammates to die. Well guys, that's all for today. Thank you guys so much for all your support. We just reached 100 subs and I'm really glad you guys have been enjoying my content. I have a lot more coming out, so I hope you guys are looking forward to that. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate it if you guys share this with your friends and family. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.